Welcome into the show. It's a good day to talk money because expert Phil Bloyd is here to help us out. This is Lowcountry Money Talk, and we're going to talk through some things going on. Nice to see you.
Good to see you, Jessa.
Phil, of course, is with Revolutionary Financial Group, and we always have a lot to discuss.
Yes, a lot of stuff going on these days.
This is going to be a really interesting show, though, I got to tell our viewers, because we have a lot to really sort of unpack throughout this whole episode, and there's a theme. So, of course, we're talking about retirement planning. A lot of our viewers, know that this is an essential topic for us, and with the recent market volatility, of course, inflation, recession concerns, there's a lot on our minds.
Yeah, we're not out of the woods yet.
We're not. We're ready to be, but we're not. But here's the good news for you. We're going to talk about the 4 Ds of retirement planning.
Sure.
And each segment throughout this show, we're going to kind of unpack each one.
Yeah.
So I would love for you to kick us off, Phil, with number 1, which is diversification.
Yeah, that's a word that's probably used way too much, but diversify. So a lot of people they think, well, if I diversify my investments, if I diversify the type of investment, maybe that will help. And that's typically, the thought of Wall Street. Yeah, we'll diversify things. We don't want too much in one stock. That's pretty smart. Maybe we don't want too much in one classification. Maybe we want stocks and bonds. Some squirrely things going. I'm going to use a technical term. Squirrely. That's a very technical term.
I love your terms.
Okay.
That's good.
So, there's some very squirrely things going on with bonds these days because the Fed is stimulating. So, or raising rates, let's say. They put out all this stimulus and cash into the system, and now we've started into inflation, and we've been there for a while, right? We've been talking about that for how long, right?
Yeah, long time.
Okay, inflation. Yeah. So now they're trying to pull back on the inflation by raising the interest rates. Well, that's a little tricky for bonds. So people look at their statements and they're like, well, it looks like my bonds are down in value. How does that happen?
Right.
Let me just run something by you. Let's say you bought a bond 3 years ago, a treasury bond, and it's paying 2%.
Okay.
The new ones are paying 4 or 5.
I see.
You want to sell me your 2%? Well, it's not worth much.
No.
So we look at Silicon Valley Bank. That's something that happened in the news lately. They had these 30-year mortgages at low interest rates, and they also had long-term treasuries. And then they had a run on their bank. They had a lot of people pulling out deposits, and they had to come up with that money somewhere. So they had to cash out these long-term positions that were paying low rates, and nobody wants them.
No, yes.
So you have to sell them. When we talk about those haircuts, right?
There's another technical term for you.
So we have to sell them at a haircut or a loss. And, they lost, I think, $2 billion in cashing out early. So this also happens with you. Wow. So, if we talk about we've heard the 60-40 plan being 60% stocks, 40% bonds. This has been an old go-to on Wall Street for decades. Over the last 10 years, maybe that portfolio will return about 11%. Most analysts are predicting going forward that same 60-40 over the next 10 years may only produce about 5%.
Oh my.
So do you want to risk 60% of your holdings for 5%? Probably not.
No, that doesn't sound good at all.
A lot of the things we have going on now go back to 1969 when I was 4. I don't think you were even around.
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
So the two economies look very similar. We had energy issues. Now we see gas prices going back up. Saudi Arabia and OPEC have lowered production. They're kind of mad at us. So we're going to deal with that all summer. We had a war in Vietnam, 69 and 70. There's a war in Ukraine now. We had a recession coming on. The interest rates were up. The Federal Reserve was raising interest. A lot of similar history repeating itself.
Yeah.
But the one thing I would talk about is we talk about a client that may come in and say, hey, I'm looking at my statement and my bonds are down and all this kind of stuff. it's really important that we follow that rule of 100. In the 30% or so, let's say if we're 70 and I want those in individual equities, they need to be in individual equities or money market. We don't want to tie those up in bonds because the bonds don't have any liquidity in this typical market here.
Right, so you want to be able to access it is one thing. We got a money lesson and a history lesson all in one segment.
That was fast.
How did you do that?
I don't know.
But the good thing to remember, though, that because of all these changes, and of course the investment world is it's tricky right now, and the past few years in particular, it's a great time to really just review your retirement plans, especially if you're wondering if you're going to have enough money, if it's going to last you. So you can start today by getting a complimentary revolutionary wealth review. Call Rachel at the office. She'll get you scheduled. It's a great time to do that. And we have 3 more Ds for you coming up on Lowcountry Money Talk. We'll be right back. This is Lowcountry Money Talk, and we promised you 4 Ds in today's show. So if you're paying attention, we are on D number 2. Phil Bloyd with Revolutionary Financial Group is walking us through the 4 Ds of retirement, and we just discussed diversification, Phil. There was a lot of information, actually.
It was quick.
You got a lot in there. It was great. Now we're going to talk about defense.
Yes.
And I know you know this as well as our viewers do, that defense wins championships. So we're going to really kind of move that idea to investments, to retirement assets. So walk us through how defense applies to investing.
Well, we always talk about a bull and a bear IRA strategy. So if we think about our bull and bear IRA strategy, we'll think about the bear being the defense and maybe the bull being the offense. So right now we're kind of in a defensive market because mostly bear, although the technologies have moved back up pretty quick. I don't know if they're going to hold that, but we'll see. But I still would consider us to be in a defensive market. So especially, when we're retired, we should be more on the defensive really, because our time horizon, needing the money, required minimum distributions, all of this is upon us. So if we get in a real bad market for a number of years, the time horizon is not on our side.
Yeah, no.
So we need to be a little more defensive with things.
Right.
Always talk about the rule of 100. If we start off with a 70-year-old and we're 30% slated for equities and 70% more on the low risk side, we can always go more aggressive.
Right.
But it's very difficult when you're 70 and we get into a downturn in the market and we have to take required minimum distributions, it's very difficult to make up losses when you're doing distributions and taxes and all that kind of stuff.
Right, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about this. So the rule of 100 really applies to basically everybody, it sounds like, but how do you apply strategies for different individuals?
Sure. Jessa, everyone's will be a little different. Some people may not have the need for as much funds as others. So, the rule of 100, even though we start there, we may get a little more aggressive if they don't need the money, if they're saving more to leave the money to heirs or something in this nature. So everyone's gonna be a little bit different.
Right.
But in just learning new people or meeting a new client, I'd rather be more on the defensive, and then we can always adjust that as we go along. But everybody's going to be a little bit different with their plans. We don't like to lump everybody in one box, we'll say.
Right.
Okay, so we want to kind of look at that. But the first thing we'll take a look at is when we're developing a plan in this market, we don't want to be impatient.
It's hard to not be impatient, but I get it, yes.
A lot of people, it's like, oh, this market's been down and, we can get more on treasuries. And go back to segment 1. So the idea is if I have 30% slated to be in equities, don't lose focus of that. And let's be patient with that because we don't want to be in a trap I heard someone, I think this morning on some financial show, and they were saying, well, be careful that the treasuries don't become a trap and you're locked in there for a year or so.
Right, yeah.
Because when that market bottoms out or capitulates and it's time to invest and we're in a 4% treasury and that money's supposed to be in equities, that's where we're going to have some problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so be patient.
Be
as
patient.
part of your defense strategy is to be patient. But it's tricky to know. I know our viewers watching are wondering too, when you hear this explained, and you're so smart and you explain it so well, that it seems intuitive, that this all makes sense. But when you really look at what you have and your plan, you might not be so sure that your financial plan has enough defense. You have enough good defensive plans. So how do you help people with that? I think it's a great time to do a revolutionary wealth review. You're going to look at all that and really help people make sure that they do have a good defensive plan built in for their retirement strategy.
And it's important, especially now, because we're going through it. So we'll probably go through it again. So let's get it together. So not only will we have it in place to finish this out, but for the next time we'll be all ready to go.
All right, sounds good. Well, we've got 2 more Ds for you on the show. There's 4, we've done 2, we've got 2 left. So we're covering money, history, and there's even a little math for you. We'll be back with more after the break. Lowcountry Money Talk is back, and we're working our way through the 4 Ds of retirement. Phil Bloyd with Revolutionary Financial Group is explaining this very well.
Hey,
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we've talked already about diversification, and we've talked about defense, making sure that you have a defensive plan and strategy. Now, the next D actually sounds like a quality you might want in a friend. It's dependability, but we need dependability when it comes to our retirement. A lot of our viewers, Phil, are worried about income in retirement. Having a dependable income, that takes the stress off, right? So we're talking about you may have a pension, you might be taking Social Security, but what if that's not enough? Where is the rest coming from?
Maybe from that dependable friend.
Maybe, hey, that may be nice.
That would be even better. Well, we'll have to see. So when I meet with people, the first, if we do a T-square, the first side is on the left side, we'll say is income. That's first. Without income, we've got major problems.
Yes.
So the first thing we look at is income. So on the income side, we want to look at, do you have a pension, like you mentioned? Do we have Social Security? Yes. Okay. Are we 73 or older? Then we have to take required minimum distribution. Yes, we'll put that on there.
Okay.
Then also I'll put that emergency fund.
Ah, yes.
6 months income.
Yep.
We want to set that aside, just keep that in a checking savings somewhere we have access to those funds. So that would be the income side. Now, do we need all that? Are those 3 things we talked about, the pension, the Social Security, the required minimum distribution, are those enough for income? If they are, okay. Well, where's the required minimum distribution coming from, though? Our bull bear IRA strategy, right?
Yeah.
On the other hand, let's say I need more from my investments. Maybe I'm funding these things out over time, right? I want to cash my last check with my last breath, right? So, I'm kind of funding these out. So when we're in a volatile market, it can be very dangerous, Jessa, if we really don't have an income plan and we don't have like a base income that's pretty much guaranteed for us for life or something like that. So then I'm cashing out stocks randomly, and that could be a very dangerous thing, because when the market's down 20% as it was last year, and I'm cashing out something, I just solidified that loss.
Absolutely.
I'm taking it from the wrong side, so we should be on that bear side. So we're on a bear side. Sometimes in a market like we're in, maybe the best return is 0.
Isn't that funny? I mean, it's not, but that's true. If you were at 0 last year, you're looking good.
That's 20% better than, right?
That's right.
So I need a base that I can go to on the bear side, we'll say, where I can draw that income and it's reliable. I have liquidity. See, if we have treasuries in our IRAs, we have to be careful because they have liquidity issues. You know, you've heard of laddering bonds and things of this nature.
Right.
But it's very important that we have a dependable income strategy. And if you don't have one, which I'm going to say most people that come in to see me the first time, they do not have one, it's time to get one.
Well, and we talk a lot on this show about the difference between having a portfolio and having a plan. And same thing applies here. You need a dependable income strategy. And I think a lot of times, you know, I said a little bit about this the last segment here. We feel like we've got ourselves together, but when you really sit down and unpack this stuff with an expert, and you realize that you might not really have the plan that is going to keep your stress down, let you sleep at night. So if that might be you, or if you're just not sure, this might be a good time to go ahead and have that revolutionary wealth review. And Phil and his team do an excellent job of really walking you through everything you've got and lining you up for the plan that is going to be right for you and dependable. Like a dependable friend.
Dependable income.
So call Rachel. She'll get you set up. We've got one more D for you coming up after this break. So you got to stick with us so you can find out what that is. Phil, we'll be right back. This is it. This is our last segment of Lowcountry Money Talk, and we have covered a lot, but we have a lot more to cover. So we're going to jump right in and do that. Phil Bloyd,
hey.
I'm always glad when you stick with
Still
us.
Here.
You know,
where am I going to go?
We have more to cover. Right. So, all right, let's talk about the 4 Ds of retirement. The 3 we've covered already, in case you're just tuning in, are diversification, defense, and dependability. Now, the last one, you might argue, is maybe the toughest and maybe even the most important. It's discipline. So if you have a plan, if you're following the first 3 Ds, but you don't have discipline, what good is it? So walk us through the why here.
I learned my discipline from the United States Marine Corps. Some people say they are very good at that.
I would say, yeah.
So, you know, a good advisor, think of, hey, we done all of these plans and all the other Ds. Now it's my job to keep you focused and keep you disciplined. Not, you know, you still want to have the money to spend and do whatever you want to do, but you know, we got to be careful that we don't drift off from our original plans. This is what this money's for. This is what that money is for. And so a lot of time I spend, Jessa, just reminding people, okay, you know, maybe this we designed 10 years ago. But
right.
This is what this is for, this is what that's for. Because one of the biggest fears that our viewers have is running out of money.
Absolutely, yes.
So when I have events, a lot of times I'll ask them, like, if you're healthy, everything's going well, you know, how many of you want to live to 100? You know, a lot of hands will go up. And I'm like, well, how many would want to live to 100 if you're broke? And a lot of hands go down.
Right.
Because it's not going to be as much fun if you don't have money. So that's one of the biggest things. So the discipline, make sure that we have the income plan, but we have to follow the income plan. Yeah. If we start getting out of bounds, then we're not going to have the results.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, because people, if you start getting out of balance with your plan, or in life, if you're out of balance with your health and different things, you don't have the results you want.
Absolutely.
So it's very important, if you have a health plan, you get up, you're exercising, you're doing these things right, you need to have a financial plan, you need to have a coach, your advisor, keep you on track for that plan. Because if you get out of whack on that plan, you're not going to have the results that you want, and you have problems.
Well, and that's what's so important about having somebody who understands that the necessity of the discipline and also can look at it objectively and keep you on track. You're like a life coach, Phil.
I've been doing this 31 years. I've seen all plans, many of them, hundreds of them, from beginning to end, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I see many of them end each year, you know, with death or whatever it may be. So I know the beginning from the end just by going through it so many times.
Right.
And most people are still in that journey, and they're like, well, Phil, you know, you're 57, how would you know? I've been through that journey with clients so many times.
Over and over and over.
I know how that journey's gonna go. So, you know, we wanna make sure that we're disciplined, that we don't, we get a lot of pressure from media and stuff. Hey, the market, get in there and this and that. We don't want all of our income wrapped up in the stock market, because if we go through what we did in the last year and we're like, okay, I need $5,000 a month or $2,000, whatever it may be, the stock market may not be the place to get those things.
Right. And I want to make sure we have time for this, Phil, because the way that you take a look at how people are doing and where we're at when you do these revolutionary wealth reviews to make sure that you can have all of your 4Ds in order, is you really look at several different factors. So kind of share that with us, if you will.
Okay, the first thing we'll look at is a portfolio analysis. I need to know where you've been the last 60 years.
Right.
Okay, or 70 or wherever. So that portfolio analysis is going to show me where you've been and where you are, how much you're paying in fees and expenses. Are you performing with the market up or down? Most I see, unfortunately, are down, below the market. So that's the first thing. The next thing, risk. Do we have too much risk? So you might put on your questionnaire, answer these questions, and then I look at your portfolio, I'm like, this doesn't match, because you're answering the questions that you should be at 30% aggression in the market, and you're at 60.
You should be able to look at somebody's risk and know how old they are without looking at them in the face,
would say
right?
So, yes.
Yeah.
And most
doesn't always happen,
unfortunately, a little bit too high. But we want to have some risk, though. The other thing would be income plan. We talked about that this whole show. So do I have an income plan? How does it perform, bear markets, bull markets alike? And the last thing, but maybe perhaps the biggest thing, is how much am I going to lose in taxes?
It's amazing how important that is.
The way that I'm taking distribution, and can I fix that? So most people I see have the opportunity to save in taxes and asset fees and expenses.
Yeah.
So why not? Because that's like taking a pay raise.
Absolutely.
We all like pay raises.
We do, and that's just so smart. And unfortunately, we don't have a crystal ball, so we don't know what the future holds. But it's very likely that this market volatility and inflation and these other concerns that we're facing are going to be with us for a little while. We got to hang in there. But your team is going to make sure that the viewers who are watching, who want to take advantage of these assessments, are able to make sure that their retirement security is top of mind, that you're not going to run out of money. So go ahead and get those complimentary meetings in. Rachel will take good care of you. And as I always say at the end of these shows, the most important thing is that you tune in again.
Yes.
We have so much fun. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.